Hey everybody, it's me, Cherry Bong, and I'm just gonna. Oh fuck! I gotta sneeze. Okay. Yeah. Hang on a second. Oh my lord. Okay. So I'm alive. I'm gonna talk about this tournament. Oh god, you guys see my team down. I don't care. So you guys, yeah. So this is UUBL. I wanted to talk about that and a particular team that I built. I'm gonna make a sort of showcase of what I've been working on, and honestly, it was just for fun. But here we are. So this is a little thread. I'll leave a link in the description for you to read. We're just gonna go over it real quick. So it's a team showcase of something that I built. Here it is. Aerodactyl, Alakazam, Articuno, Charizard, Clefable, Donphan, and I called it Alphabet Cereal because, well, there was a UUBL tournament. We're in the last week, and I wanted to get a competitive edge against other people. I wanted to do well, and honestly, this was the only thing I could come up with. I had absolutely no clue what to do. I didn't like the tier in the past when I tried it, and I've actively avoided it. You could say I nearly sabotaged it. I didn't want this meta to advance, and I've felt less and less compelled for it to advance, but I can't help but wonder, maybe I should understand it a little more. What do I mean with all that? The whole thing is that in the Discord at the time, the only person that seemed interested was, I think, Bilzamon, and I just thought it was an untier. I just thought it was uncompetitive, it was gross. And then later, I became super attached to Underused. So the idea of turning UUBL into the new UU was something that scared me even more. And that's some discussion that has been going on in the Underused community, and I think it would affect the player base, but whatever, that's a different can of worms that we don't have to open now. So anyways, I needed to build a team because I just wanted to see how this tier was. Like, I was going to give it a second try, I guess. And I was bored as fuck, and everything was really tough, and I didn't really like any of the teams that were out there. So Rage just inadvertently inspired me because they put the list of the books, and you could see about like 15 of them or whatever, and they were listed in alphabetical order. And that's when it struck me. If I was going to make something work, I was going to have to force myself to use my creativity. So I had to start with a stupid idea. And this is how I'm going to make the stupid idea work. I took the first 6 Pokemon from the list in alphabetical order without lowering to a different tier. So as you see, there's Aerodactyl, Alakazam, Articuno, Charizard, Clefable, and the letter D, Donphan. There's no B letter, even though Blastoise is a Mon. It's from UU, so it doesn't count. So, and I wasn't doing it just because, I'm going to do this. I looked at it and I'm like, well, these are all individually not bad. Like, clearly, Aerodactyl is a good answer to normal types and can phase them because many normal types try to use Earthquake and stuff. So it's not going to be a Porygon 2 answer, but it'll help versus Ursaring and Kangaskhan. And Alakazam is the best, or at least top 2 pokes in the tier. Articuno is a really good wall, and there aren't that many good electrics. Charizard is really good at coming in on other fire types, and I learned that because I know how Sunny Day offense works in OU, and those teams are actually very afraid of Charizard. Clefable could be a belly drum sweeper, it could be a bunch of things, and then Donphan. Well, Donphan is the ground type and the spinner, and it's bulky, and it can, yeah. So I had myself an idea. So here's the team. We're going to break it down. So just so you guys get a look, I called it Alphabet Cereal because why not? Then I'll go into each of the aspects of these teams, and then we will I'll show you some replays. I thought I would find more than 4 with this team, but it turns out it's pretty good. So Aerodactyl is what I would like to call a sort of tempo lead. Not just an anti-lead, it's not a suicide lead, but it could be. It could be all those things. Tempo, because you outpace everything in the tier, besides Jolteon and other Aerodactyl. So you outpace everything. You can, that means you can go with some strategy of a support role. And I just decided I didn't really have any idea of whether or not it was going to be good, but there are lots of special attackers, so I figured Swagger would be really good against those special attackers, which are very frail on the physical side. So I went with that. Swagger, good idea. You can't contest it, and with Miracle Berry, even more so. It makes it even harder. You turn it into a sort of RBY metagame. And what I mean with this is that in RBY there are sleep leads, but there are also paralysis leads. And the advantage that a paralysis lead would have over a sleep lead is that they decrease the chance of the sleep even landing. This works in a similar vein. If I can take a T-Wave from Alakazam and not get punished, I can inflict Swagger without the risk of being paralyzed the turn after. And then there's a chance, it's a 50% chance, that they don't even do the move. At that point, since Alakazam is a common lead, this is a realistic scenario. I use Swagger, I increase its attack, it hits itself, and I still get to keep the Miracle Berry. Furthermore, I'm in a position where on the following turn, I might even nab a KO or force a switch. So, in that sense, it's tempo because you're getting momentum. It's not just speed, it's also momentum. If I'm facing a normal type, normal types are usually physical attackers, so they're a little bit scarier. What I would like to do is set up Reflect before I attempt going for a Swagger strat. You can do the Swagger thing if you want, but you don't have to, and you're not forced to. Furthermore, you can go for Sandstorm and basically chip away its HP. Sandstorm is really strong in GSC, but just not very consistent. It takes away 12.5%, so that's an 1/8 of the HP rather than a 1/16. That means that it does more than negate leftovers recovery. It deals damage, even with leftovers, to everything that isn't rock, ground, or steel type. The Reflect is good because I can activate it first and then go for Swagger strats against physical attackers, most of which are normal type. And Hidden Power Rock is to get some chip damage and give certain Pokemon a good push in the direction of accidentally killing themselves. Another example are Quillfish leads, which, yes, they do deal lots of damage that is super effective to Aerodactyl, but if I go with a Swagger on it, then it's more likely to hit itself, hurt itself, and then be in range of a Hidden Power Rock to hit KO. So, plus I get to negate their spikes, potentially. 50-50, worth a shot, force a switch, that kind of stuff. So, in that sense, Aero is really good. You'd be surprised how many scenarios it's beneficial for me to either switch out with Aero, or to stay in, let it die, and benefit from the Reflect or Sandstorm. So it's really good. You can use it however you want. It's good in the early game. It's good in the mid game. And you could nab a couple KOs with that Hidden Power Rock on some flying types like D-Knight, what's his name? Charizard, Articuno, Moltres for sure. Moltres gets O-Code. So there are lots of fire and flying types in this tier. And they're all weak to rock, so yeah. Alakazam. Now, Alakazam is the second disruptor of the tier, and this was inspired from the GSC Invitational because TC brought this. I don't remember if it was this specific set, but it had Attract on it, and Attract is like a poor man's Confusion. But in some cases, it's even more consistent than Confusion can be. What Attract does is it inflicts love. Love means 50% of the time you are not going to attack. You're not going to hurt yourself, but you're not going to attack. So it's a pretty broken move. The caveat is that it requires you to be female. And so it's not always great, but in Generation 2, there's this singularity, and that's that males are stronger than females. When there is a male to female ratio, the male type is always the one that's going to have access to more possible IV spreads, or DVs rather, in their attack stat. This isn't so much of an issue with special attackers, but for physical attackers, it is. For example, a Snorlax that's female can only have up to 1 DVs in attack. It can have either 0 or 1, no more than that. And that makes a huge difference in damage calculation. But for Alakazam, it doesn't. Alakazam is a special attacker, so the only time you'll ever see it use a physical move is with a Dynamic Punch or Submission or something. So, yeah. Attract and turning Alakazam into a female is perfect. So in that regard, you get to immobilize lots of male types. And we're going to look just at which ones are always female and which are genderless. So if you see here, there's Articuno's genderless. Clefable, I believe, is always female. Entei is genderless. Kangaskhan is always female. Moltres is genderless. And that's it. All the rest... Oh yeah, Porygon too as well. All the rest are always male. So, out of like 25 pokes, 20 of them are going to be male. So, that's like 80%, meaning 40% of the time, Attract is going to be viable to use, to just use against, like, 40% of the time. So, I don't know why I divided it again by 2, but I think I meant to say that 40% of the time it would work. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyways, besides that, Attract reduces the chances of someone attacking by 50. And Thunder Wave can stack on top of it because they're two different types of status. Attraction, or love is a volatile type of status that forces switches, kind of like Confusion. And T-Wave does the same thing. So if you multiply the chance of a Mon failing times the other chance of a Mon failing, you get a quarter times a chance of success and a chance times the chance of success. So for instance, 50-50 chance of success through Attract and 75-25. So 75% chance of success through T-Wave. So 3/4 times 1/2, that's 3/8. So you reduce their chances by 5/8 of attacking, I think. That should be it, I believe. I'm not really good at math. It's really skewed towards the Alakazam being able to just, do that stuff. And it doesn't have Recover because it doesn't need it. Because if you're going to immobilize the opponent for most of the time, all you need is to hide behind a sub, force switches, recover HP back, and even if they go to, Houndoom, you're faster, you can attract them, then you can use T-Wave, you immobilize them, and you can run away. It's really good. Psychic is great, and with 135 special attack, you're able to even 1v1 Porygon 2 and shit like that, and fish for Spidef drops. The only issue is Houndoom. Okay, that was a long talk. Then there's Articuno. Articuno has Hidden Power Dark, so Ice Beam is the preferred move because in GSC you want to be able to last, and you don't want just 8 PP for a move, so Blizzard is not very good. Also, it's not as strong as it was in RBY due to the special split, and so there's no point going for the big damage there. Ice Beam is still respectable, especially in a tier where everything is so frail, and so Ice Beam is really good. It's one of the primary switch-ins to special attackers because it's especially bulky, and so as a result, that's going to be my primary answer to opposing Alakazam. Oh my god, hiccup. The problem is that HP Electric cuts into its bulk, and it's not really that good. It's not really as good as an actual pseudo Bolt Beam where someone has T-Bolt and then HP Ice. Ice Beam paired with HP Electric is leagues worse than T-Bolts plus HP Ice. So I decided to give it Hidden Power Dark. Why? The thing is, if it's going to have to wall Alakazam, it's going to have to be successful against it even when it's forced to use Rest and Sleep Talk. And you got to be able to break that sub all the time. So Hidden Power Dark doesn't cut into the bulk, and it also makes it able to break the sub. So, yeah, even when it's asleep. Charizard. What else? It's also not particularly fast. It's mediocre. It's like a mid-speed tier. Charizard is good because, as I mentioned already, well, Houndoom is a problem for this team. Its typing is really good and pretty much unresisted. So Charizard comes in to check it because it's faster and stronger, and it can use it even as a setup opportunity to set up with Belly Drum. And you'll find many opportunities where this Charizard comes in and rescues you and, you know, really gives Houndoom a run for its money without you having to rely on Aerodactyl, which doesn't have lefties recovery. So Charizard can put in a lot of work, and it can chip whatever Mon comes in after that. For example, Kingdra, which likes to be paired with Houndoom, would often come in on Charizard, so you can go for the burn, you can use Flamethrower, you can use Fire Blast, you can even use Slash, and weaken it over time. And eventually, if you keep repeating this scenario where Charizard keeps coming in on the Houndoom, and you're careful, then you might even be able to set up a Belly Drum on Kingdra, which is slower, and the Kingdra's all weakened now, and so now you can sweep. So in that regard, really good. It's also just a good typing to have in this tier, and Earthquake and Rock Slide is obviously great. So there's that. Charizard is relatively bulky, and I think an underrated threat in this tier, I'd have to say. Good against the fires, and, you know, it's nice. Also, I forgot to mention this, but Alakazam is a great check to Tentacruel. Well, a good check. Clefable. So Clefable is there primarily as a sort of soft check to Ice Beam and T-Bolt Porygon 2. Mostly Ice Beam, because Ice Beam plus normal is unresisted, and P2 can just set up and recover back its HP, and it can really screw you over. So it's a really scary Mon. And Clefable speed ties it. So when you don't have the status on that P2, you might be risking stuff, but it's probably better to risk Clefable than anything else because it has the recovery to boot. It's not a lot. It's only 8 PP. It's not like Recover. Moonlight only has 8 PP, but at least you can use Charm and drop the opposing Porygon 2's attack by 2 stages. You can do this with other normal setup sweepers as well, like Kanga and stuff, and by all means, but they're faster than it. Ursaring isn't faster, but Ursaring hurts even more, so you just go with Arrow. because they're not running special attacks. Now, if you drop their attack enough and they're not careful, you can probably go with a belly drum. And at that point, you can wall break. Its attack is unfortunately just low enough to not actually cap at all with a belly drum, so it doesn't even reach 999. So you're not sweeping unless you spread status all over the place, which probably isn't happening. Then there's Donphan. Donphan is a spinner, but on a team where there isn't too much switching and, you know, 3 flying types, spikes aren't too important. That said, with Rapid Spin, it's still providing a useful utility for Clefable. And Earthquake is just, it deals truckloads. Plus it can set up, and with Curse, it's going to be able to phase and use Roar without being out-phased. So, yeah. Without Donphan, this team gets 6-0'd by Jolteon. Jolteon is a fucking nightmare of a mon. Absolute nightmare. So you have to make sure that Jolteon doesn't set up or go for some jank. Anyways, let's have a look at some of these replays then. So, first game, I think this is a ladder game. It is. And I lead with Arrow, and they're leading with Alakazam. Aerodactyl is faster. I do miss the swagger, unfortunately. But I decide to go for it a second time, and I miss. Swagger has accuracy, and I missed twice. That fucking sucks. But anyways, I go for some chip. I'm not getting HP back, obviously, and I get hit by Ancient Power. And I set up Reflect. At this point, I'm cutting my losses. No point staying in. And I'm just going to go straight to Articuno. Now, what's scary is I can't break Tentacruel sub at all. So I have to go straight to Alakazam. Fortunately, I'm behind a Reflect, though. So this Reflect should be helpful. Maybe I can go for a Psychic or a T-Wave. We'll see what I'm going to do. I go for the T-Wave. In comes Houndoom. It's leftovers Houndoom. So I'm going to use Attract. And I want to avoid getting hit by this Houndoom. I'm going to switch right to Charizard as they go for Crunch. And here I go for an Earthquake, but they go straight to Arrow, which is a good play. And then I go to Clefable. So Aerodactyl, kind of annoying for this team, but not super strong. Donphan is really bulky, and it looks like it's a sub Aerodactyl, so might not even have Roar due to there also being a Donphan there. Looks like a pretty good core, actually, this guy's team, but not as creative or cool as mine. So I have Donphan, and they're going to go back to Arrow. I'm just clicking what's in front of me because I don't want to get out-predicted. And sure, it's not super beneficial, but now I'm in a different spot, and they make this... Actually, that wasn't even a prediction. They just made the right play. So I infatuated, and they have 3 out of 8 chances of hitting me. I'm going to use sub, and watch as my leftovers come back, and I basically get back what I lost from that pursuit damage. So I'm spamming T-Wave, and 3 for 3, immobilized or paralyzed. You know, Alakazam is just too beautiful. This Houndoom's probably thinking about petting this Alakazam's whiskers, and I switch out to make up for what I lost. So here's Clefable, and I'm just going to go for damage because at this point I need to leave a mark. And I got what I was hoping for. So they chip my Clefable. Oh, never mind. Okay. I thought I was going to set up Belly Drum. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go for a return here because I'm not going to let them set up. You know, if they want to go for Sludge Bomb, be my guest, but I'm not going to let them do it for free. So I go for another return on the Alakazam. And at this point, I'm not sure. I go to Articuno. which is scary into this matchup because of the two switches, the Tentacruel and the Houndoom. I double to Donphan as they recover. That was a good play from them. And they have Electabuzz, so that's pretty interesting. Actually, I could see Electabuzz being really good in this tier. That's but Articuno is my best bet versus this because it's strong, it's bulky. I don't want to get parried. But in comes my Alakazam. I'm going to attempt to immobilize it with Love once again. And this time I switch out. I just straight switch out. I'm too scared of this Houndoom. And I go for a Flamethrower. Doesn't really do much, but, you know. I could have gone for Rock Slide, I guess. In comes Clefable as they go for Substitute. And I'm going to try and break that sub. I know they're going to click it. I know they resist it. But I'm going to go for it a second time. And I want to call them out. So I want to see what they're going to do. I go for it yet again. So at this point, sure, it's not super helpful, but I'm chipping them down. And I expected them to click the move right then and there. They went for Ancient Power, fishing for a boost. I click Belly Drum, and I get basically a free Swords Dance. So now I can break that sub. A-okay, no problem whatsoever. They try, maybe that was a roll, I'm not sure. I don't know this tier very well, but I heal back what I've lost. And this time, I just want to make sure they don't get cute behind the sub. And maybe this turn, I'll consider using Moonlight. No, I use Charm. That's fine as well, although, yeah, that could happen. So I nearly died there, and now I'm just going to attack. Never mind. Okay, I'm at full health, which is good. They're going to roar. And Donphan on Charizard, I got to watch out for Hidden Power Rock. I can't just stay in there. And I go to Donphan. And I'm going to use Roar. Not sure if that was a great play, but now I'm forced to go to Articuno. So I do that. And what do I do here? I Sleep Talk. Right? I do. Because I want to recover the HP that I lost. Fire Punch does not even 3-hit KO the Articuno, as you can see. And look at that. Super effective damage. It's good. It's relevant damage. You know, relevant damage. And with the Ice Beam, that's a 3-hit KO. So now it's actually forced to use Rest. I wake up and I go for another one. Why not? And here I go for Rest. I'm trying to be cautious. As cautious as one can when they're losing, because I'm losing. And I go for an Ice Beam. No freeze, but still really good damage. Another Sleep Talk, and it's a bad roll. So here I got to make a play. I go to Alakazam. I can't use Attract when it's behind a sub, unfortunately. So I'm going to take this Sludge Bomb. No crit, no poison, which is good, but I can't stay in. So I go for the Attract because that's the only chance I have at this point. I can't even sub, so I may die. All right. I sub. Just to increase my odds. And I can spam T-Wave. I can go for Psychic. I have a couple. They go for Crunch. And they're still immobilized. I'm not making any progress here. None. And now I'm at a percent where I'm slightly making progress and I switch out. I can't come in on Tentacruel anymore, so I have to make a play. So I go for return. They can sub again, do all that pretty stuff that they did earlier, which really sucks. So I'm just going straight for the Belly Drum. Just balls to the wall. And I Moonlight. And I guess I'm going to attack now. Bam. And here I have to decide what I'm going to do. Am I going to attack? Am I going to recover? I just attack. And I take out the arrow, which is nice. Electabuzz is very scary. And it misses the cross chop. And I take out that too. So now we're in a slightly better spot. And I take out the Alakazam as well. 3 for 1. And suddenly I'm in a good spot. But I can't just go to Alakazam, so I go to Charizard, which speed ties Tentacruel. The weirdest switch one can make. But in comes Alakazam. So this might just pay off as I predict them to switch to Houndoom. And now Earthquake is going to hurt everything. So that's good. That damage is going to stick. I go to Articuno. And I may attempt something. I go to Alakazam as they go to Houndoom, which kind of sucks for me. But, you know, same as always. Go for that Attract. They Pursuit. They do Pursuit. And I switch out, but they Pursuit me. Doesn't matter. As long as I beat... Well, I have to beat... Oh, my God. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Focus fucking band, man. All right. I'm so pissed off at that. And then reversal. I lost. I lost, man. I forfeited. I just clicked Sleep Talk after. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not playing this shit. I was so annoyed at this game. Oh my god, I didn't remember that. Thank god this was a ladder game. That was so jank. I just said GG, but I didn't. I was so upset. So upset. Oh my god. That was something. Anyways, here's another game. This is also a ladder game. I've climbed up a little more. I'm not good at this tier. I use Aerodactyl on Smeargle. So Smeargle is interesting because it can be, you know, Agility Pass. It's not banned in this tier, and I don't even know if Trap Pass is banned in Borderline because nobody plays Borderline. So Smeargle is free to do whatever the fuck it wants. Spikes, and I'm using Swagger on it. It had Miracle Berry, and I managed to confuse it. So he switches out, or Charles switches out, goes to Alakazam, and I'm going to do the same thing again. Swagger, and the Alakazam hits itself. So this is, people hate this, you know, and I guess they're right to hate it, but, you know, so they might attempt a T-Wave, but they hit themselves, and I'm faster, and they're in range now, so I'm forcing out the switch, and some Dawn fans, yeah, the guy is pissed. So, I go for Hidden Power Rock, and I KO the Alakazam. At this point, I'm at a really good spot. I have a Reflect Up. My arrow took 0 damage, and I can just click Psychic here for free, and I'm going to go for the Attract strat that I used the other game. But this time, it didn't really go so well. So, Alakazam might have been better to go for Sub first, but I do spread some paralysis, so that's okay. Attract, same situation, more or less. We haven't seen a Psychic switch in, so I stay in, because why else should I do something? So it's Miracle Berry, Thief, Spikes, Smeargle, which is weird. Interesting. It's a good way to make something work, because now I don't have any leftovers recovery from the Alakazam. That was my primary way of doing things. And I keep missing, and the Alakazam dies, so that really sucks. But I'm just going to spin. It's a T-Wave Clefable after all. No, I'm actually going to attack, never mind. Okay. Now I spin? Right? Nope. I curse. Okay, that's actually... I like that. I like that. I can roar out the Donphan, but unfortunately I bring in the Tentacruel. And I stay in. Oh my lord. Why did I stay in? I don't have a good Tentacruel switch in. So I go to the arrow and I deal damage to it. So I have to basically play into the strategy that someone would want, which is increased attack. That's scary. But fortunately, Aerodactyl resists poison. So it's only the most amount of damage it's going to deal me is with Hydro Pump. So I go for Swagger on the Donphan, another scary play, and it kills me with a +2 Rapid Spin. Oh my god. This is so janky. So janky. And they don't go to Tentacruel? Oh, because it's at 23%, that's why. Alright. So, yeah. And the Tentacruel is starting to look kind of scary now. Moonlight Clefable, T-Wave, Return. We don't know if it's Belly Drum. I chip it just in case. I hit it again. And I go for HP Dark because it's fine. And I full para here. I could probably rest, but do I? No, I don't. I don't want to rest because I'm afraid of Tentacruel. And now you'll see why. So, sub, HP Dark, doesn't break. HP Electric wouldn't have either, only some percent of the time. Not really worth it. Some percent, not a good idea. But I do put it in range of a 2-hit KO from Ice Beam. This thing is so specially bulky, it's not even funny. So, yeah. And in comes Dodrio. Dodrio is fast as fuck, and it crits my Charizard, which is fucking stupid. Why did I do that? I don't know why I did that. So they switch out. And I think I lose this game as well. Could be wrong. It looks pretty... It looks like it's anyone's game here. I'm not sure. They could Belly Drum if they have it. They don't. They have Flamethrower. Seems like a good set. Clefable goes back to Clefable. Fair enough. They're decreased attack, so I may go for a Belly Drum. I don't. Instead, I get paralyzed for my troubles because I'm very smart. And, well, I don't. I guess I don't because of the Dodrio in the back, but I don't know if that's worth it. Anyways, I Belly Drum here of all turns. And this is not a good showcase of how good this team can be. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think I lose this game as well. Yeah. Unless. Endure. I go for Hidden Power. Yeah, I think they just stall me at this point and I lose. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So this is not a good showcase. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Now for a... Is this a tournament game? Nope. This is another ladder game. Here we are. Ladder game. Arrow on the Espeon lead. Same shenanigans as before. This guy apparently is a fan of mine. So... And I go for the Swagger on Kingdra. Very risky. Very risky, but seems to be working out. I have I have Ice Beam hitting the Articuno for neutral, and I go to my own Zard. So Zard does Zard stuff. I have a Flamethrower. I think in some of these games I actually had Protect, but just to gain HP back for a potential sweep. Articuno comes in. It deals nice damage to Kingdra, but Kingdra can paralyze it, so it's a bit of a mixed matchup. Ugh. So Zard comes back in. Kingdra is not quite chipped enough for my liking to sweep, although in reality I possibly could have done it. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Might not have been a bad idea after all. Articuno. Zard takes a boosted Hidden Power Electric. And there's the damage on Kingdra. Articuno again, another crit. There's rest. There's the shit. HP Electric. Anyways, Clefable comes in, and I go for a return. I charm the Donphan. I could use Belly Drum, but since it uses Roar, it's scary. Now I use it. I'm safe, and I'm gonna deal a lot to the Donphan there. And it's Sleep Talk Roar of all things. That kind of caught me off guard there. It was very annoying. I managed to win the speed tie, and I can't go to Zard because of the HP Electric. There's the HP Electric damage from the Articuno, and Articuno takes some Ice Beams to the face. I'm trying to stall out his PP here, and every now and then Sleep Talk just to increase my chance at some nice rest. I go for a Belly Drum, and a boosted EQ does 42, because Kingdra is thick. So it's time to bring in the big guns. So I go for Psychic, I crit, and voila. Espeon, I go for Sub, even though Espeon doesn't really have what's it called? I attract the Espeon. Also, another not amazing play, I think. But because they could just BP to Articuno, and then I would be in trouble. So I go for a Psychic, and it keeps setting up. I go for another Psychic, and I get a Spadef drop. So that's good for me. So now if they BP, they'll also get a Spadef passed on. And Baton Pass, there it is. But they have Alakazam. I go for the T-Wave. And I go for Attract. And now I'm really forced to stay in because I can't stay in. I can't go to anything. This thing is too scary at +3. So Fire Punch. I go for a Sub again. But they break. They manage to attack despite only 3/8 of success. And for the third time in a row, that's the third eighth of success that they needed. I go for another Sub, and this time I get what I want, and I deal half with this with these 2 Spadef drops alone, and I still have 9 Psychics, so I'm in a really good spot now. And this Articuno is the only thing to challenge me at this point. So Ice Beam, that's good for them, of course. And my arrow is still in a really good spot. And there it is. Take out that. And there's Muck. I just go for the Psychic, and look at how resilient and bulky Muck is. Imagine taking super effective Psychic and living. That's incredible. So, yeah. Anyways, this is a W for me. But yeah, it's a good, this was a fun game. All right, next, this was a tournament game. I wasn't very prepared at this point. I played a couple of ladder games and I was using this team. I thought I had another one, but I couldn't seem to find the replay. I might have to look for it. So we got Quill, same story as before, but this time they do manage to get the spikes, and they go to Meganium. So Meganium is a good wall, physically pretty bulky. Can use Body Slam to spread para, and I go for the Sandstorm. So this is the first time I kick up a Sandstorm, and that way basically every time they switch, it's kind of like having spikes. It's pretty cool. So they go to their Scissor, and I deal a crit to the Scissor. I really don't know what Scissor does. I just deal damage to it, and then I discover what it does. Steel Wing Stab. That's very scary. So I just go with the Reflect and die, and I have Charizard in. And Charizard beats those 3 mons. So I just go for a Flamethrower. And I switch to Donphan. Ancient Power. Could get a boost, but doesn't really matter. They have Curse, but they're still slower than Donphan. Or faster. So I roar them out. I can go to Charizard. I didn't know at the time, but Charizard, Meganium doesn't have Stun Spore, but it can have Body Slam. So Ice Beam crit on the Moltres. I'm getting lots of crits, lots and lots of them. And my Charizard is a good check, but it's not good at absorbing status. So I take this Toxic, unfortunately. And then I just go for, what do I go for? Rock Slide, because it appears to hit everything rather decently on his team. And I go for another Flamethrower. I don't go for the EQ for some reason. Why didn't I go for Belly Drum? Whatever. And I go for a Rock Slide. Not sure about that turn. So they have somewhat of a Superman team themselves. I go to Alakazam. My best bet at annoying the fuck out of my opponent. I click Sub. They go for Light Screen. And they have Ancient Power. So it looks like it could be a Swords Dance set. Ancient Power doesn't even break the Sub, apparently. So that's something to keep in mind. I crit through the Light Screen. This is like 3 for 3, just crits on crits on crits. Unfortunately, for my opponent. And these aren't the crits I had planned. These aren't the kinds of hacks I had planned for him. And here I go for a Psychic. And do I go for T-Wave? I go for Attract. I think T-Wave might have been nicer. Just cause. I go for the Psychic because why not? Break my Sub. And another Psychic. T-Wave, good. Good play. Attract again. And at this point, they're forced to go to Articuno, but it's in range. So I pick up a KO here, and that's good. Then they don't go to Meganium. Oh, because Meganium's at 25. So really, really, really good showing of how broken Alakazam can be. And somewhat Aerodactyl too. But Aerodactyl isn't this crazy against everything like Alakazam is. Alakazam is just absurdly bonkers. So Moltres goes for the Protect, but I call them out. So I go for this. And actually I outspeed everything. So everything dies here. And I don't even take toxic damage in Gen 2. If you KO, you don't take the recoil or the toxic damage. So that's good. Unless, yeah, no, you don't. I don't think. Sorry. No, that's not true. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You do take toxic though, or you don't take toxic. So, they keep losing mons, and at this point, everything is... There isn't really any other play for my opponent because Charizard outspeeds Articuno, Moltres, and the Paralyzed Aerodactyl. So, I just win. Yeah. Whew. This was just another showing of how this team works. I'm not really good. Just to remind you all, I'm not very good. So, anyways, there is another replay here. GSC, UUBL, Roa Spotlight, round 3, and let's go here. I get super pissed. In my third round, I get destroyed. But here's the last replay I have of this team versus... This is round 3. And I bring my... the only thing I know how to use best. So Aerodactyl. I go for the Swagger and I miss. So I go straight to Articuno. I'm quite shook about that first game. But yeah, anyways. Ice Beam. Kingdra. Kingdra's super annoying. Ice Beam, I'm fishing for a freeze here. They're fishing for a para. Neither of us get what we want, but Ice Beam does good damage also. The closest thing to good damage you can get on a Kingdra, really. Besides setting up a normal and just Hail Mary. So, Articuno is not doing very well. So there's that. There's the rest. There is the rest again. And okay, let's speed things up. I just realized you guys are looking at a smaller window. Oh well. I go to my Alakazam. I set up my sub. They have spikes. They go for a Fire Punch. I go for a sub. They obviously want to get the T-Wave, but I don't want to let that happen. Because that means I lose. I just lose if that happens. I spam some more, so I get exactly what I want. So they have Porygon too, which is super scary. But it's paralyzed. I can't go for Attract on this because it has no gender. And Clefable comes in. I'm faster than this P2. So I go for a Return, unfortunately, and I don't go for a Charm or anything like that. And they're slower, though. So I can use Charm here, but that doesn't happen. I still have a second shot because they set up again. They were not aware of this strategy. I go for another Charm. And only take 16 in the process. I go for another one. And I think I might have been better if I had simply attacked, but oh well. I couldn't go for Belly Drum, sadly. And this Kingdra is annoying as fuck. Hidden Power. rest. This is boring. More boring shit. More boring shit. I get paralyzed. Jolteon comes in. Jolteon scary mon. I go to Donphan. Donphan strong mon. I click a EQ. I deal big damage. Unga bunga. Alakazam comes in. And I go for Attract. So very low chances of hitting me. Through a Sleep Talk. I go for that. I don't go for sub. And I sub here. And they go for Dragon Breath right on that turn, so that's good. I also block that Dragon Breath, so that's also good. And so the weaker special attacks, like 60 base power ones, don't normally break through the sub, which is good to know. Yeah. Another Psychic here. And I think I go to Donphan because Donphan is strong. And I also get a free EQ because they didn't reveal any... I didn't go for EQ. Well, they didn't reveal any other attack, any other switch into ground. So they're clearly weak to ground. They set up with their Conga, and they attempt to roar, but I'm slower than them. So I get the roar. And now I get to deal 100% to the Zam. So this is big damage here. I go to my own Zam. I take a Sludge Bomb. They were basically giving me a second KO, but I didn't take the opportunity, which is too bad. I might just go for EQ here. I do, and I take out another Mon. So things are looking real good right now. I go to Arrow. Conga's annoying. I set up a Reflect before going for some swagger shenanigans, and then I do it. And I don't want to risk too much. I'd rather chip them now while they can hit themselves than risk anything. And I'm slow. I'm not slow enough to roar out the Kangaskhan. So I can't go to Donphan and phase them while they're asleep because they can just click roar and it would work while they're asleep. So I go for this. Articuno, Ice Beam, they're forced to rest. What do I do this point? I go for another Ice Beam. And another. And another. And I die, but Alakazam comes in and I pick up another KO. Aerodactyl in on the Jolteon. As absurd as that seems, it allows me to come in with Donphan. I take Hidden Power, but I take out the Jolteon. And now Porygon 2 is paralyzed, and I crit the P2, and I win. So, yeah. This is a showcase of how you can use certain strategies in UUBL. It's the first time I ever recorded a video, and it might even be the last one, because I don't really love this tier all that much. That's why I spent so much time talking about it, because that way I can give you guys more to watch. If you guys enjoyed, consider looking at that thread. Maybe build a team or two yourselves. Help the meta to advance. And don't turn this into the new UU, or I will find you and beat you up.